Today we're going to take a look at reading and writing from files using Python. And the first program we're going to make is just a simulation of cat, the program in Python that just prints out a file. So if we run cat on the little Python file I've got so far, just prints out the whole text file. So we want to make something that does that. And you need to pass in a file name as a command line argument to cat, so we're going to do the same thing here. And just like in our last lecture, we imported sys, which is like the system module, and that's where we get the command line arguments. So I like to do this in a, make sure we're actually running this file, little main block. And we're gonna just check if the length of the system arguments is less than 2. That means, because again, the first one's the actual file itself. And let's print a little error message. File path, I guess, because you could specify an actual absolute path to it. Otherwise, we want to actually go ahead and open that. So we can say fd equals open. Open is the function built into Python to actually just open any sort of file. And by default, it'll be opening it as a text file and read only. So we want to pass in the first command line argument, and it returns a file object which has certain methods we can use, such as read or write, depending on what we pass in. So let's just go ahead and see if this works here. Pass nothing. Nope, we didn't. I forgot to actually exit after that, so that's good. We'll specify file path, and if we do, let's just say our file. Doesn't do anything, that's good. But let's, a file that doesn't exist. Okay, so we did get an exception because that file does not exist. So we want to try this. And accept what file not found error as it doesn't matter, we'll just accept that and print give them a little better error message than all of this text. Alright, we can say file, maybe file doesn't exist would be better. So that should be good. And something else we want to do is whenever we're done with a file, you always want to do, you always want to close it, saying we're done with this file and we're not going to use it anymore. Now the actual Python documentation seemed to be a little lacking on what all functions or methods you have available to you for reading and writing text files. So I've shared a few links here just to give you a little bit of a little better resource than whatever the official documentation was, because it wasn't all in one place. So the open function takes the file name as a parameter. The access mode is an optional parameter, otherwise it'll be read-only by default. And then buffering, which we're not going to worry about here. But the different modes that we might talk about is reading, which is R, and then R plus would be for reading and writing. But you need to be careful whenever we talk about writing, because by default it'll start at the beginning of a file, so it'll overwrite the whole thing if you just try to do write or read plus and just So yeah, you have to be mindful of where you're writing to a file at. So you may be wanting to actually append to the end of the file sometimes, and then you'd use A. So we'll probably mostly be talking about reading, writing, and then appending. So we could also change this, I guess, so that we would just do it as R. So this is just a string. You could do R, write, or A, or R plus, but we just want to do reading here. Because we might get a different type of error, like, file cannot be accessed or something like that. You don't have permission to read a file, for example. So this looks good. And also we do have some methods here we can look at. So close I just talked about was closing the file. It means you're done with it. And most of what we'll be doing probably is reading, maybe readline or read lines. I normally just use read for the most part. And we got, well, yeah, write and write lines would be good too. And most of these other ones probably aren't going to be. Next could be good too. And yeah, we're probably not going to use the rest of these methods in this class, at least. You might use some of the other ones in 201 or something. And you might actually deal with reading like binary files, because you do RB for reading a binary file. This is for reading specifically a text file. So remember, we're dealing with text characters here. So we've got this, and what we want to do is actually just print out the contents of the file. So we say contents equals fd.read, and I'm just going to print contents, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, that looks about right. However, there is one little difference here, which is, maybe not important, but could be. We printed an additional new line due to our print function. The print function will, the default end is a new line, but this file actually ends with a new line when you print that out. So if we change this, it won't put that little extra space there. So if we run cat on our file, now that looks identical. So that's good. So yeah, we open the file, we read all the contents. Just this returns a string, so contents is just a string with all of the new lines and everything else. And printed it, and then we close the file, which is always good practice. And we handled any exceptions well. Exceptions of at least finding the file. So let's go ahead and do a very similar example. And we'll call this one head. And we're going to be doing most of the same stuff here. But if we forget what head does, this takes a file as a command line option, or command line argument, sorry, and it'll print out up to the first 10 lines. I should say up to, because you could have a file that has 5 lines of text, but we still want to print all of them. Also, this does take additional command line arguments, which we'll probably implement that in one of your assignments at some point. But for now, we're just gonna do the simple example of just printing up to the first 10 lines. There's a few ways we could do that. The simplest of which would probably be if we just remember. So this is a string, and we could do read lines, right? That was another function. Let's just print out and see what this looks like. And we'll we might want a, let's make a little text file here. It's just going to be 5 lines. That way we can catch that one issue that might come up. And we'll do it on a little test file. Oh. Gotta make this executable. And as we can see, it returned a list of strings, and it actually has the new lines from our text file in there. So if we're using read lines, we'll need to be careful about that. So yeah, we'll probably still want to be cutting off the end of that. So we could do for, again, we wanted to do 10 lines, right? So I in range of 10, right? Give us 10. Then we could just print what? Contents of I. We seem to have an index error, right? Because I'm doing I in range of 10, which, you know, after I get past the 5th line, oh hey, that's not actually there. So we need to do something that's a little more robust. And we could do, say, for a line in contents of up to index 10. We're taking a slice of this. This returns a list of strings, and we're just saying just give me up to index 10. Okay, so brackets nothing, which means start at the beginning, colon 10, up to well, actually it'll give us up to and including index 9, so it's not including index 10. So it will give us 10 items. And we can actually just do print line instead of doing some sort of index. And we should get a much better, yes, that looks good. So there we go, we got head working, and I don't believe there'll be any other errors that could pop up. We could always make this some sort of command line argument, like, hey, if, you know, you got, what was it, dash n on head, right? Yeah, dash n or dash dash lines. That'll be a good assignment. And let's say likewise we want to do tail. It'll be very similar. And I guess I'll need to make that executable as well. So instead of doing the first 10 lines in tail, don't forget your man pages. So same as head, but last 10 lines. So yeah, it's longer than 10 lines. So I could do tail of that file. So we want to do to the end of the file, right? And if we do negative 10, that should give us, all right, so we're saying from, because remember you can do negative indexes, so the 10th last item to the end. And let's make sure that looks the same. Yep. We included the same lines, so that worked. So hopefully this all makes sense. I think I'll just go ahead and make a separate video for writing files. But if you have any questions on reading, go ahead and contact your instructor. Otherwise, stay safe and have a good day.